Well, it's really a significant moment here in China. They're calling it the trial of the century in this country, and in fact, it's the most sensitive political trial here, Fanula, in at least 30 years. Bo Xilai, the former kingpin of Chongqing, a megacity in the west of China, who really was a shoo-in for the very top echelons of the Chinese political system. He stood and faced justice today, the first time we've seen him in state media pics in that trial, the first time since early last year when he was stripped of his party power and removed from the public sphere. Now, very interestingly, there's been a social media feed from the court behind me that is putting out what has been happening in that court. We are not allowed inside that court, nor is most of the international and independent media. But that feed is suggesting that Bo Xilai is being defiant against these charges, even going to the point of him cross-examining personally some of the witnesses who were called to testify against him. The public consensus here amongst people we've spoken to and also online in China is that perhaps he showed a more competent push of his side than the prosecution today. But the Communist Party rules the courts here, the police and the judges, so very early days yet. Vanilla?
All right. I mean, some would argue that his performance today was feisty as well as competent. I mean, is it the case that the verdict is preordained, as you seem to imply?
Well, it's often the case that these sort of trials have a preordained result, verdict, not necessarily preordained sentencing. That has been the trend in China for many years for highly sensitive cases. The fact that they're even holding this suggests, if you realize that they run the system, including the judicial system, I mean the Communist Party, then that would suggest that they wouldn't hold this if they weren't sure of the outcome. Of course, surprises can happen, but it's not yet the case just because he's showing defiance that he won't be convicted. Obviously, if it's looked at from a normal trial perspective, if a defendant disagrees with the evidence, doesn't mean necessarily they're not going to be convicted, because they're presenting evidence today into tomorrow here in China, and we'll have to see what verdict comes through. But that will only happen several weeks or at least 10 days after the trial closes.